If you'd asked me a month ago, I would have told you straight up, no pun intended, that Connor and I were just friends. Best friends, yeah, close as hell. But still, just friends. We met our sophomore year of college in the most cliche way possible. Assigned partners for a film studies class project neither of us cared about. He was the loud, sarcastic frat guy who showed up late but still managed to charm the professor. I was the quieter, artsier kid who actually watched the movie we were supposed to be analyzing. We clashed immediately. Then, weirdly, we clicked. After that class ended, we kept hanging out. One coffee turned into group projects, turned into weekend movie nights, turned into gym sessions and late-night drives and everything in between. By the time senior year rolled around, we were inseparable. We even signed a lease together for an off-campus apartment. People always assumed something was going on between us. I mean, we did look like a couple half the time. Shared food, shared hoodies, sat too close on couches. I had a crush on him, sure. How could I not? He was funny, confident, maddeningly attractive in a kind of effortless way that made it feel unfair. But I kept that locked down, buried. He was straight, after all. Or at least, that's what I believed. Then came that night. It was nothing dramatic, at first. We were sitting on the couch, watching reruns of The Office for the 100th time. It was one of those rainy, weirdly quiet Friday nights where it felt like the whole world was asleep except us. He had his head tilted back on the cushion, eyes half closed. I remember thinking he looks different tonight. Softer somehow. You ever think about just disappearing for a while? He asked suddenly, voice low. Like faking your death and moving to Bali? I joked, trying to keep it light. Connor cracked a smile, but didn't look at me. No, I mean, just leaving, starting fresh. Somewhere nobody knows you. Dude, you okay? I asked, sitting up a little. He finally turned his head toward me, and for a second, I saw something in his eyes. Something raw. He looked tired, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen before. It hit me in the chest. I'm fine, he said, and smiled again, but this time it didn't reach his eyes. Sorry, I sound emo as hell. I laughed gently, not because it was funny, but because I didn't know what else to do. It's okay to sound emo sometimes. He nodded, then looked down at his hands. You ever wonder what it'd be like to kiss someone just to see what it means? No expectations. Just finding out? I blinked. Like a curiosity thing? Yeah, curiosity, he said. Then, after a pause that felt way too long, you ever been curious? I swallowed hard. My mouth went dry. My heart started hammering for no damn reason. I mean, sure, I said carefully. Who hasn't? Connor didn't say anything for a beat. Then he sat up straighter, leaned in just a little, like he was studying me. Can I try something? He asked. That's when I knew. This wasn't a joke. He wasn't teasing. My breath caught in my throat. Okay. And then he kissed me. It wasn't long, just a soft, hesitant brush of his lips on mine. But it was enough to undo me, enough to flip the table I'd carefully arranged in my head, the one labeled safe friendship boundaries. When he pulled back, he looked stunned. Not scared exactly, but spooked. Like he'd touched something hot and wasn't sure if it burned. Shit, he said under his breath. I didn't move. I couldn't. My body felt frozen, heart pounding, brain overloaded. You okay? I asked quietly. I don't know, he muttered. That wasn't supposed to happen. Except it did, I said. My voice barely came out. He nodded, stood up, started pacing. This is so messed up, I don't even know what the hell that meant. I wasn't thinking. Yes, you were, I interrupted. That stopped him. He looked at me, eyes wide. You don't just kiss your best friend on accident, I said. Something's going on, Connor. You can't pretend it's nothing. He didn't respond, just stood there, breathing heavy, like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. And that's how it ended. One kiss. One night. And now we don't know what we are. Connor didn't sleep in his room that night. He didn't sleep in mine either. I know because I stayed up the entire night listening. I heard the front door open around 1 a.m., the heavy sound of his boots hitting the hallway floor. I got up to check, just in time to see him quietly throw on his hoodie, shove his phone in his pocket, and walk out into the rain. No goodbye, no explanation. He was gone until morning. When I woke up, when I got out of bed, because sleep didn't happen, I found him in the kitchen, back to me, cracking eggs like nothing happened. Like he hadn't kissed me. Like he hadn't broken some invisible rule neither of us had ever written down but both understood. He turned when I walked in. "Hey!" Just that. "Hey!" Not "Hey!" about last night, or "Sorry I bolted," or "What the hell are we doing?" Just "Hey." Like we were still in the middle of watching The Office and nothing weird had happened. I stared at him for a second, waiting for more. When nothing came, I nodded and mumbled, "Hey, back." He slid a plate of scrambled eggs toward me like a peace offering. "You hungry?" Not really. My stomach was still a tight knot. But I sat down anyway. We ate in silence. Just the sound of forks clinking and rain tapping the windows. It was unbearable. I kept expecting him to crack. Connor wasn't exactly subtle about anything, but he didn't. He acted like it was any other Sunday morning. Finally, I couldn't take it. "So, we're not going to talk about it?" He looked up, fork halfway to his mouth. "About what?" I blinked. "Seriously?" Connor sighed and set his fork down. "Look, I don't know what that was. Okay? I had a lot of shit on my mind. I was tired. You were there. It happened. That's it." "That's it?" I asked, voice sharper than I meant. He flinched slightly. "I'm not saying it didn't mean anything, He ran a hand through his hair, clearly frustrated. "I'm trying to figure it out. So you kiss me, disappear all night, and then make breakfast like we're good?" "I didn't know what else to do," he muttered. "I thought maybe if we didn't talk about it, it'd be easier." "Easier for who?" I snapped. He didn't answer that. We sat in silence again. But this time, it wasn't the quiet comfort we used to share. The kind where you didn't need words, because just being in the same room was enough. This was thick, awkward, almost suffocating. After a while, I pushed my plate away. "If you want to pretend nothing happened, fine, but don't expect me to do the same." Connor looked at me for a long moment, and for once, he didn't have a comeback. No joke, no sarcastic deflection, just a tight nod. "I get it," he said quietly. He didn't try to stop me when I got up and went back to my room. For the next week, we acted like two strangers living in the same apartment, polite, distant, functional. We passed each other in the hallway like coworkers who used to be friends. We kept conversations short, surface level. Safe. I hated it. Every night, I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying that kiss in my head, wondering what it meant. Wondering if he thought about it too. Wondering why the hell he wouldn't just talk to me like he used to. But Connor? He was a pro at compartmentalizing. He went to class, hung out with his frat bros, worked out, came home, and barely said a word beyond "hey" and "later." He never brought up that night again. He never brought me up again. Until Friday. We'd been invited to a mutual friend's birthday party, a small house thing, mostly people from school. I wasn't planning on going. I wasn't in the mood to smile and drink and pretend my life wasn't in slow motion. But around 8 p.m., Connor knocked on my door. "Are you coming?" he asked, already dressed in that tight black tee he always wore when he wanted attention. I blinked at him from my desk. "To what?" "The party," he said, like it was obvious. "You think that's a good idea?" He shrugged. "Better than sitting here avoiding each other." That stung more than it should have. But maybe he was right. Maybe pretending everything was normal was better than pretending we didn't exist. "Fine," I muttered. "Give me 10. The party was loud, crowded, and full of people I barely knew. The kind of night that usually ended with drunk Uber rides and regretful hookups. I stuck close to the kitchen, nursing a beer and trying to look busy on my phone while Connor disappeared into a group of people laughing around the fire pit outside. I watched him through the window, the way he moved in a crowd, so effortlessly at ease, so not the guy who kissed his best friend and ghosted him after. I hated how good he looked. I hated that I still cared. About an hour later, I stepped outside for air. Connor saw me and broke away from the group, walking up like nothing was weird. "You good?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah." He stood beside me, quiet for a second, then said, "I saw you talking to that guy in the kitchen. The one in the flannel." I raised an eyebrow. So? Nothing, he said quickly. Just, you seemed close. I turned to him, my expression hard. You don't get to be jealous. I'm not, he paused. Okay, maybe I am. I stared at him, stunned. You've barely spoken to me all week. I know, he said. I've been trying to figure out how to say what I want to say. Well, you're doing a bang-up job. He laughed, but it was tight. Nervous. Can we talk? Like actually talk? I looked around, then nodded slowly. Not here. We ended up back in his car, windows fogging slightly from the rain still drizzling outside. It was quiet, the world reduced to the soft patter of water and the low hum of the engine. Connor sat with his hands gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. I don't know what I'm doing, he said finally. I'm not trying to mess with your head. That kiss, it wasn't a joke. It wasn't some experiment. He trailed off, then turned to me. I wanted to know what it felt like. And it felt like something big, and it scared the shit out of me. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My throat felt tight. I'd never kissed a guy before, he went on. Never even thought about it like that. But then I did. And now I can't stop thinking about it. I looked at him, really looked at him. His face was flushed, eyes wide with something between fear and hope. You're not the only one who felt something, I said finally. But you don't get to run away from it. You don't get to act like it didn't happen just because you're scared. I know, he whispered. I'm sorry. I didn't expect it to feel that real. We sat there for a long moment, just breathing. And then, softly, he reached for my hand. I don't know what we are, he said, but I don't want to pretend we're just friends anymore. The thing about holding someone's hand for the first time, really holding it like you mean it, is that your body remembers that touch long after it's gone. Even hours later, I could still feel Connor's fingers threaded between mine, warm and uncertain, like he was still figuring out what it meant to want me like that. We didn't kiss again that night. We didn't even say much after he dropped me off, but something between us had changed. It was like we'd stepped into a new version of our friendship, one where every look carried weight, every silence buzzed with possibility. The next morning, I found him in the kitchen again. He handed me a mug of coffee without saying anything, then sat across from me like it was the most natural thing in the world. You sleep? He asked. Barely. Same. I didn't know what we were doing. Was this us trying to be something? Trying not to be something? He hadn't exactly laid out a plan when he said he didn't want to pretend anymore. All I had was the memory of his hand in mine and that trembling whisper, I don't want to pretend. But when it came to Connor, clarity was never part of the package. The day passed like we were back in our old rhythm, him watching football, me editing photos for a class assignment, but there was a tension under the surface. Our knees touched on the couch and neither of us pulled away. He stood behind me while I cooked and his hand rested on my shoulder longer than it needed to. I caught him staring a few times, not in a creepy way, just searching. Later that night, I found him in the hallway outside my room. He was leaning against the doorframe, barefoot, hair a little messy from the shower. You free? I looked up from my laptop. Depends. Want to go for a drive? Connor's car always smelled faintly like spearmint gum and pine air freshener. Familiar, weirdly comforting. We didn't speak much as he pulled out of the lot and merged onto the highway. The windows were down, the air cool against our skin, and the stereo played something soft, the 1975, I think. After a few miles of silence, he finally said, I don't know what I'm doing. I waited. With you, he added, with this. I keep thinking, if I had some big realization, like, oh, I've been into guys this whole time, it would be easier. But it's not like that. It's not guys I think about. It's just you. I felt my chest tighten. I look at you and I don't think about labels, he went on. I just think I want to know what it feels like to fall asleep next to you. I want to know what it's like to kiss you when we're both fully awake. He exhaled, shaking his head. I want something with you, but I'm scared as hell. My heart was thudding now. I hadn't expected this. Connor spilling his guts like that, exposing the parts of himself he usually kept hidden under sarcasm and bravado. I'm scared too, I said. but I've been scared for a long time. Every time I laughed too hard at one of your dumb jokes, every time you hugged me too long or called me in the middle of the night just to talk, I felt something, and I've been scared you'd never feel it back." He looked over at me then, really looked, and said, "I do." We pulled off the road near the lake. It was a spot we'd gone to a few times before. A little overlook with a view of the water and just enough privacy to feel like the world was far away. He killed the engine but left the music playing low. For a moment, we sat there in the quiet, the car filled with the hum of headlights and the chirp of crickets outside. Then he said, "Can I kiss you again?" I didn't answer. I just leaned across the console and kissed him first. This time, it wasn't careful or questioning. It wasn't an accident or a dare or a drunken impulse. It was real, intentional. His lips were soft, and his hand found my jaw, and it felt like finally exhaling after holding my breath for too long. When we pulled apart, we didn't say anything. We just leaned back in our seats, fingers intertwined again. And for the first time in weeks, everything felt quiet. In a good way. We didn't label anything that night. There was no, "So are we dating now?" or "Does this mean you're bi?" It didn't feel like the moment for that. But things did change. The next morning, he made coffee again, and when he handed me my mug, our fingers lingered. He grinned at me like he was finally letting himself be happy around me. I felt myself smile back before I could stop it. We started spending more time alone. Not just because we lived together, because we wanted to. We'd go for walks at night, take long drives with no destination, end up at diners at midnight sharing fries and stealing glances across the table. And yeah, we kissed. Not in a way that was hidden or nervous anymore, but still cautious. Like we were both waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like maybe it was too good to last. That's the thing nobody tells you about finally getting what you want. It doesn't come with guarantees, especially when you're falling for someone who's never fallen for a guy before. Especially when you're scared you're the only one falling. One night, about 2 weeks after that kiss in the car, he came into my room. "I can't sleep," he said, standing awkwardly in the doorway. I closed my laptop. "Want me to make you tea or—" "No," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. Can I stay here?" I nodded, and he crawled into bed next to me, like it was the most normal thing in the world. We lay there in the dark, shoulder to shoulder, not touching. Then he whispered, "Is this real for you?" My heart jumped. "Yeah, it is." He was quiet for a moment. Then he slid his hand across the bed and found mine. "Me too. But real doesn't mean easy." And it didn't take long for things to get complicated again. For a while, it felt like we were in this strange in-between place. Not friends, not boyfriends. Something in the middle. Something fragile. Connor started sleeping in my bed a couple nights a week. Not every night, not enough to make it a routine, but enough to get my hopes up. We didn't always kiss. Sometimes we'd just lie there, talking until we drifted off. His arm slung over my waist, like it belonged there. And for those moments, it felt like maybe we were heading somewhere. Like maybe we could be something. But daylight always made things feel different. He'd wake up first, usually slip out quietly before I even opened my eyes. No kiss goodbye, no see you later, just gone. Like he didn't know what to do with whatever had happened while the lights were off. Then he'd spend the rest of the day pretending it never happened. Back to being loud, casual, untouchable Connor, cracking jokes with the guys, throwing a football in the quad, flirting with the girl who worked at the smoothie place. Like, he didn't have my hoodie crumpled in the backseat of his car. It was starting to get to me. I didn't want to be his secret. I didn't want to keep pretending that our nights together weren't real, just because he was afraid to say what we were out loud. So one night, I brought it up. We were back in my room. He'd come in after midnight like usual, kicked off his shoes, climbed into my bed without a word. He curled up beside me, arm around my chest like he always did. I stared up at the ceiling, trying to ignore the storm building in my gut. "I don't want to keep hiding," I said quietly. He shifted. "Hiding what?" I turned to look at him. "This, us," Connor exhaled slowly. "We're not hiding, we're figuring it out." "No," I said. voice a little sharper now. You're avoiding it. There's a difference. He sat up, rubbing his face. Can we not do this tonight? No, we have to do this, I said, sitting up too. You can't keep slipping into my bed at night and pretending you don't even know me when the sun comes up. I don't pretend I don't know you, he shot back. You don't see me, Connor. Not during the day. Not when your friends are around. Not when it matters. That hit him. I could see it in his face. He looked down, hands clenched in the blanket. You don't get it. It's not that I don't want to be with you. It's just, I don't know how. I don't know how to be this person in front of everyone. What if people don't get it? What if they do? I cut in. What if they get it just fine? What if we're the ones making it harder than it has to be? He was quiet. I'm not saying you have to post a relationship status or hold my hand in public tomorrow, I said. But I need to know you're not just using me as your emotional pit stop. I need to know this means something to you. Connor looked at me, and for once, he didn't have a clever comeback. No joke, no deflection, just raw honesty in his eyes. It does mean something, he said. It means everything. And I wanted to believe him. I really did. But words only go so far when they're not followed by action. The next week, things were weird. Not cold exactly, but cautious. Like we were walking a tightrope and neither of us wanted to be the one to fall first. He still texted me. Still showed up late at night sometimes. But now it felt like there was a countdown running in the background, like we were on borrowed time. Then came the party. One of his frat brothers was graduating early and throwing a huge send-off bash. I didn't want to go, but Connor asked me to come. Said it'd be low-key, just friends, beer, music. I should have known better. The place was packed, wall-to-wall people, music loud enough to make your bones vibrate. Connor disappeared into the crowd within minutes, pulled into beer pong and group selfies and some dumb drinking contest that involved chugging vodka out of a cereal bowl. I tried to hang, I really did. I nursed a drink, made small talk with a girl from my stats class, laughed when I was supposed to, but the whole time I kept looking for him. And then I saw it. Connor, my Connor, pressed up against some girl in a tight red dress, her hand on his chest, his mouth close to her ear like he was whispering something funny. It hit me like a punch to the ribs. I pushed through the crowd and left without saying goodbye. I was back in our apartment maybe 15 minutes before I heard the front door open. Hey, he called, voice too casual. Why'd you leave? I didn't answer right away. I was in the kitchen, arms braced on the counter, trying to breathe through the weight pressing down on my chest. He came up behind me, reeking of sweat and beer. You okay? I turned to face him. You really don't get it, do you? His smile faded. What are you talking about? You don't get to be with me and then flirt with random girls at a party like it means nothing. I wasn't flirting. Connor. He froze. I watched it click behind his eyes. The guilt. The realization. I'm not trying to hurt you, he said, but you are. I pushed past him and headed for my room. He didn't follow. And for the first time since all of this started, I wasn't sure if I wanted him to. The silence that followed that night wasn't loud or dramatic. It was slow, heavy, the kind of silence that doesn't shout, just lingers, soaking into the walls, into your skin, the kind that wraps around your ribs and squeezes until breathing feels like work. Connor didn't come into my room that night, didn't text, didn't knock, nothing. And honestly, that hurt more than anything he could have said. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of him moving around in the kitchen. Cabinets opening, water running, the clink of a spoon in a mug. It was also normal. That pissed me off more than I care to admit. I stayed in bed, listening to every little sound, waiting to see if he'd say something, call out, even fake a reason to knock on my door. He didn't. Eventually I got up, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't lie in that bed and pretend I didn't hear him anymore. He was sitting at the counter with a bowl of cereal, scrolling on his phone like we hadn't completely imploded less than 12 hours ago. He didn't look up when I walked in. Morning, he muttered. I poured myself some coffee, ignoring the pit in my stomach. Is it? Connor looked up, eyes narrowing. Don't do that. Do what? That passive-aggressive thing. If you're mad, just say it. I turned, leaning against the counter. You kissed me. You slept in my bed. You said this meant everything. And then I watched you hit on some girl like I didn't exist. I wasn't. Stop, I said, louder than I meant to. Just stop. I don't care what you meant. I care what you did. He set the spoon down, finally looking me dead in the eye. Do you think this is easy for me? No, I think you're making it harder than it has to be. You think I wanted this? He asked, voice rising. You think I plan to wake up one day and suddenly want my best friend? Do you know what it's like to question everything you thought you knew about yourself? To feel like one second you're normal and the next you're someone you don't even recognize? I opened my mouth, closed it. He stood up, pacing now. I didn't ask for this, all right? I didn't ask for the confusion or the panic attacks or the constant wondering if everyone can see it. I didn't ask for you to walk into my life and make me feel things I've never felt before. That last line stung more than I expected. I'm sorry I make you feel things, I said, voice flat, his face twisted. That's not what I meant. Isn't it? He went quiet. The air between us practically buzzed. I didn't flirt with her, he said after a long pause. I was just talking. She had her hand on your chest. He rubbed his eyes. It didn't mean anything. Yeah, I muttered. That's what I'm afraid of. Nothing means anything to you unless it's behind closed doors. He looked up at me. And for once, he didn't have a comeback, just this small, broken expression on his face. I'm not ready to be whatever this is, but I don't want to lose you. You can't have it both ways, Connor. You can't keep me halfway. I'm trying. No, I said, voice steadier now. You're trying to have control. That's not the same thing. We stared at each other for a long time, the kind of stare where the room feels like it's tilting, like if someone breathes too hard, it might all fall apart. Then I grabbed my keys and left. I drove around for hours. No destination, no music, just the sound of tires on pavement and my thoughts gnawing at my brain like rats in a wall. Part of me hated myself for caring this much, for letting him get inside my chest and twist everything around. But the bigger part, the part that knew how it felt to fall asleep next to him, to laugh with him, to have him see me in those quiet, soft moments, still wanted him, still believed there was something worth holding on to. But I couldn't keep doing it like this. I couldn't keep being the one carrying all the weight while he tried to decide whether or not he wanted to show up, so I did something I never thought I'd do. I texted him. Me, I need space. Don't come into my room. Don't text. Not for a while. Me, figure your shit out. I'm done pretending I'm okay with half of you. I hit send, turned my phone off, and for the first time since this whole mess started, I let myself cry. A week passed. No texts. No late-night knocks. Nothing. It was torture. But it was also peaceful, in a way. Like I was slowly remembering what it felt like to exist without the ache of wanting something I couldn't have. Then, one night, there was a knock at my door. I didn't answer. Another knock. Quieter. Hey, he said through the door. I know you don't want to talk. I get it. But I'm going to say this anyway. I sat up in bed, breath held. I've been a coward. He said, you didn't deserve that. I've been so afraid of what this means, of what people would think, that I forgot to think about what you need, what we could be. Silence. Then, I miss you. I miss us. And if you still want me, I'm done hiding. He waited, just long enough for me to believe he might knock again, but he didn't. Eventually, I opened the door. The hallway was empty, but something told me this wasn't the end. Just the beginning of something real. For a few minutes after I opened the door, I just stood there, barefoot in the hallway, staring at the spot where Connor had been standing. The air still held the echo of his voice. I miss you. I'm done hiding. Part of me wanted to run after him, to catch him, pull him back, tell him he didn't have to say anything else, that I forgave him already, that I'd been waiting to hear exactly that. But the other part of me, the bruised part, didn't move. I needed him to mean it. Not just in the hallway, not just in the dark when no one else was around, I needed him to show up. So I went back inside, crawled into bed, and let the silence sit next to me again. Only this time it didn't feel so heavy. The next morning I found a note under my door. Meet me at the lake. You'll know where. -C. He didn't have to say which lake. We had a spot. A little bluff off the edge of Miller's Trail, where the water went glassy at sunset, and the world always felt a little quieter. It's where we'd gone the night he first kissed me, where we'd shared fries at 2 a.m. after a fight about absolutely nothing, where he once told me, without realizing the weight of it, "I don't think I've ever felt more like myself than when I'm with you." I dressed slowly, every part of me tense with hope and fear fighting for dominance. By the time I got there, the sun was already dipping low, setting the water on fire. He was sitting on the edge of the bluff, knees pulled to his chest, hoodie tugged tight like armor. He didn't turn when he heard me coming, just said, "I was scared you wouldn't come." I sat down next to him, close, but not touching. "I almost didn't," I admitted. He nodded. "I deserved that." We sat in silence for a moment, listening to the wind move through the trees. Then he turned to face me. "I've thought about 1,000 different ways to say this," he began, his voice unsteady. "None of them felt big enough. But I guess that's kind of the point. This isn't about big speeches, it's about finally being honest." I looked at him, letting him keep going. "I've been selfish. I let my fear turn into distance, and I used confusion as an excuse to hurt you. You gave me everything, and I gave you just enough to keep you close without ever really showing up. I kept waiting for the right time, but the truth is, there's no perfect time to be brave." He paused, swallowed. "I don't know what label fits me. I don't know what people will say. But I know I want you. Not just in secret, not just at night. I want to wake up next to you and not have to hide it. I want to hold your hand at the bar, in daylight when everyone can see. I want you to know that we, aren't just something I'm figuring out. You're something I want." My throat burned. I blinked too fast to keep the tears from blurring my vision. "I can't promise I'll get it all right," he said, "but I promise I'll try. Out loud, no more hiding." He reached for my hand. "If you still want me, I'm here, all in." I didn't hesitate. I took his hand, laced our fingers together, and leaned in until our foreheads touched. "I'm still here," I whispered. His eyes closed, a soft breath escaping his lips like relief. Then I kissed him. Not like the first time, when it was hesitant and scared. Not like the second time, when it was hopeful but unsure. This kiss was real, solid, clear. It said everything we hadn't known how to say until now. From that day on, we didn't pretend. He stopped slipping out before sunrise. He started holding my hand when we walked through campus. He introduced me to people as someone who mattered, not just someone he roomed with. We had rough days. Days when he questioned everything again. Days when I did. But we talked. We fought sometimes, but then we talked. He came out to his friends slowly, not in some big Instagram announcement, just conversations, honest ones. There were awkward moments, some weird stares, a few jokes that made him bristle. But he never backed away from me again, and eventually, people adjusted. Because the truth is, people will always find something to talk about, but they stop caring faster than you think when you stop hiding. A few weeks later, we ended up back at the lake. Same spot, same time of day. He brought sandwiches, and I brought cheap wine and a beat-up Bluetooth speaker. It was warm, the breeze light. We laid in the grass, side by side, our hands tangled together on the blanket. "You remember the first time we came here?" he asked. I nodded. "You were trying to figure out if you could kiss me without the world ending," he laughed. "Turns out you can. The world's still here." "Barely," I teased, bumping his shoulder. "The ozone probably cracked a little." He smiled, then rolled over so he was half on top of me, eyes hovering over mine. "You ever think about how weird it is that we were just friends a few months ago?" he murmured. I looked at him for a long moment. "We're still friends," I said. "We just kiss better now." He laughed full and bright, and I kissed him again, because I could. Because we weren't hiding anymore. Because this was ours now. Not perfect. Not planned. Just real. The first time Connor posted a photo of us together, it wasn't anything big, just a dumb selfie from our walk across campus. Him squinting into the sun, me making a stupid face, our shadows stretched long on the sidewalk behind us. He captioned it, "My favorite walking disaster." And he tagged me. That was it. No rainbow flags, no hashtags, no coming out monologue. But to me, it was everything. It was him saying, "I'm not hiding anymore," without needing to explain himself. It was 100 small moments adding up to one real one. People noticed. Some liked the post. Some didn't comment at all. A few DMs came in. Questions, curious comments. One guy from his old high school sent a rainbow emoji and nothing else. Another messaged him just to say, "Respect, man." And Connor? He didn't flinch. He just kept moving. Kept choosing me, choosing us. We learned how to build a relationship in pieces. Mornings, brushing our teeth together in that tiny shared bathroom, bumping hips, stealing each other's towels. Grocery trips that turned into arguments over almond milk versus oat milk. Me falling asleep on his chest while he watched YouTube videos way too loud. Him whispering dumb jokes against my neck until I laughed so hard I couldn't breathe. We weren't perfect. Some days we still fought. Sometimes he still got quiet, overwhelmed by his own head. Sometimes I still worried I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. But the difference was, now we talked. We sat on the floor and worked it out. He let me in. I let him stay. One night, a few months after everything had started, we hosted a game night. Just friends, some beer, snacks, the usual. I caught myself watching him as he laughed too loud at his own Cards Against Humanity joke, his hand casually resting on my knee under the table. And I realized this is what it feels like to be known, to be seen, fully. Not just in the dark, not just when it's convenient, but all the time. Later, after everyone had gone home, I was brushing my teeth when he leaned against the doorway behind me, arms crossed, wearing one of my hoodies. "Hey," he said, like he hadn't just seen me all night. I glanced at him in the mirror, mouth full of foam. He smiled, soft. "I'm really happy." I turned to rinse, wiped my face with a towel, then looked at him properly. "Yeah?" He nodded, stepping closer. "I didn't think I could have this. I didn't think someone like me could do this." I reached for him, wrapping my arms around his waist. "You can. You are." He pressed his forehead to mine. "I love you, you know," I smiled. "Yeah," I whispered. "I know." It still blows my mind sometimes. How one kiss changed everything. It wasn't planned. It wasn't clean. It was messy and uncertain and, honestly, kind of reckless. But it forced us to stop pretending, to stop holding back. We were just friends. Until that night. Now we're something more. We're figuring it out, together, day by day, out loud, in the open. And that's more than I ever thought I'd get, more than I thought he'd ever give. But here we are, still holding on, still choosing each other, every damn day.